Hello and welcome to the FilmGamer podcast. This is season 5, episode 6, or so I think. So for this one, I'm gonna try and be a bit different because this is post-TIFF, and what I'm gonna do is I'll give you a bit of a breakdown of that, but I'm gonna try and be more emotional rather than technical. I'll try and do that, and I'll try and take you through stuff as it happens. Just a quick play-by-play. So I went to the Toronto International Film Festival, and the great thing that happened there was that I was able to review movies for Rotten Tomatoes. And what I'm going to try and do in this episode is show you my work and what I'm looking at as I'm looking at it. And it'll be a bit more off the cuff. If I can just sit this up here, this is what I'll do. Alright, boom. Alright, so Rotten Tomatoes. I got a Tomato Meter approved publication of Flickering Myth, and I was able to review all of these movies. For whatever reason, the critic rating on Rental Family, which was my first, didn't go, but that's a 4 out of 5 anyways. It's just, so I saw that, I saw Brendan Fraser there, I liked the movie. It was an absolute one-to-one translation of the movie trailer. If you watch the movie trailer, it's good. It's just basically about a guy played by Brendan Fraser, who's an actor, who takes a job essentially as a rental family. This girl needs a father. He plays the father. The mother wants The mother wants her little girl, to get into school. In order to do that, they have to pass off as being like a happy, stable family unit, so they hire Brendan Fraser because it's in Tokyo, and the daughter is half Japanese, half white. People talk about awards bait. This is the first movie people say is Toronto International Film Festival bait, but surprisingly it didn't take at Toronto International Film Festival, and that's because the movie is smart enough that it doesn't go completely for the heart. It's a bit smarter than that, and a bit more put together, more reserved, almost more Japanese, you might say. Because of that, it's smart, and it does grapple a tiny bit with, how in the economy, the most real thing about a lot of these actors with no internal lives is, the lie that they're selling, that they're putting themselves into. So it's a bit more reserved than you might think, but I liked it a great deal. I thought it did everything I needed it to do. The lack of depth in it is kind of by design, because they look at, they're actors who are actors when, they're not in front of the camera, and the answer that the movie kind of comes up with, for the work that they're doing, nothing. And I just thought that it handled that all well. Then I saw it was just an accident, which I got into. I was very annoyed because I got put into a group of we'll wait in line for each other and blah blah blah. Didn't happen. And as a matter of fact, somebody who was supposed to wait in line for me got in way ahead of me, and I almost didn't get into this, but I did. I got in, and it's won the Palme d'Or. I think Juliette Binoche was the acclaimed French actress who was the head of the jury, president at Cannes Film Festival, which in previous years has been the main bellwether for movies that get nominated for Best Picture. And this was just very good. It's basically about a man who kidnaps an intelligence agent but can't identify him or confirm his identity before he exacts his revenge, so he goes on kind of a quest to help people around him identify him, and it's kind of about fascism and the response to that, and measures of violence and whatnot. It's so well done because it's like a small film about big questions, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then we get to Hamnet. Now, writing for Flickering Myth, they make you rate on 2 scales: film craft, so the technicalities of how the film was made, and movie experience, how it made you feel. I thought this movie was an absolute snooze fest, as I did the last Best Picture winner that this director directed, which was give me a second. No, Madeline. Chloe Zhao. And I thought this was more of the same. It doesn't let you know about the character much. It's about William Shakespeare, him falling in love with his wife, who was named Agnes in the movie, but historically she was Anne Hathaway. Not casting Anne Hathaway bothers me, but whatever. Anyways, Jessie Buckley, who plays Anne Hathaway, is good in it. But it's a movie about themes, and the story is boring, and what bothers me is that the example that I cite is the end of the movie, and I won't give too much away, but it's a moving moment, and you have award-winning costuming, you know, decent sets, clearance, everything. It's all set up. The actors are delivering, and the musical cue they use is one that, I'll just give it away, On the Nature of Daylight, which was used at the end of Arrival, and was used in The Leftovers, and has been used in a lot of stuff, and I just found that so hacky. It's not the entire reason I hated the movie, because that was one of the few moments that worked. I didn't like it because it was boring. The lady beside me was falling asleep. I didn't realize that she was asleep, so I leaned over to her, asked when I came back from the bathroom, did I miss anything? And I thought she was ignoring me. It turns out she was asleep, but she had sunglasses on, so I couldn't tell. She was like, oh, I was asleep. And I asked the girl beside me, and the girl beside me was like, ah. Like, she literally gave me that. And I'm like, okay, well, you want to be absorbed in the movie, okay. And then I look over later on, and she's, like, texting, and then she just gets up and leaves. So, don't believe the lies that this movie moved everyone to tears. It's gonna be the movie where it's like, oh, it gets nominated for Best Picture, and people are like, oh, of course, it's amazing. And then, you know, somebody watches it and says how boring it is, and people are like, oh, blasphemy, you don't know what you're talking about. I can tell you, I made it onto the Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter and affected it, and I'm one of 2 or only 3 movie reviews that are negative on it. Anyways, while that loads, I'll show you when that loads. I might have gotten rid of the cache or whatever, but that's fine. Dust Bunny. This is the first of 2 Midnight movies I saw, and I gave it a 3 out of 5. The sets are good, the costuming is good, good premise. It's about a little girl who hires a man to kill the monster underneath her bed. The man is played by Mads Mikkelsen. The little girl is a newcomer mostly. Sigourney Weaver is also in it. David Dastmalchian is in it. He's just like that guy that you see who shows up and is kind of like an evil guy. Late Night with the Devil, he was in. The Suicide Squad as Polka Dot Man, he was also in. I don't know why Poetic License loaded, but there it is. This is another one where it's like there's less reviews on here, and I was one of the negatives. It's difficult to give, and this is for the opposite reason, negative reviews to a movie that does make you feel good, but as a crafting, it's not great. I say Poetic License isn't a great film, but it's on par with most half-decent television streaming movie comedies. This is a movie basically about 2 best friends, played by Cooper Hoffman, son of Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Andrew Barth Feldman, who was in No Hard Feelings. And a woman comes between them, Leslie Mann. So it's like Rushmore, you know, a little bit of that, of like a woman coming between 2 men in a university setting. But that's like the whole pull of the movie. So there's not a lot of tension in the movie. There's not really much of a story being told. There's still some funny parts, and it's an easy hangout movie to watch. I did like the costumes and the outfits that Cooper Hoffman wore in it. But yeah, it's not amazing or anything. It's just, you know, fresh original voice. Maude Apatow is the son of Judd Apatow. So not super fresh in terms of comedy. In terms of what it has to say, the most of what I could glean from it was just basically about a woman, you know, as Maude's family dynamic. She has a father played by Method Man, who is not really there, but he's respected and loved and clearly loves his kids, and then, you know, you have the sister played by Nico Parker, who's kind of off doing her own thing, and then, you know, the movie just kind of follows Leslie Mann, and then there's the parallel plot of the two friends and stuff. Weird thing that I noticed in this that I thought was funny, all of the other women in this movie are sort of like villains, like they qualify sort of as antagonists, trying to like stop the characters, and they're kind of like big loser behavior, which I just kind of find funny. You don't see that, especially in movies directed by women. But anyways, Poetic License was fine. You know, if it's on Netflix down the line, you know, at midnight or 2 a.m. you want to watch a movie, it's not that long. I think it's about 90 minutes. It feels around there, and it's just like a fine, easygoing movie. Dust Bunny is a movie that, you know, the effort is put into every little bit of it, and had they done a little bit more tightening in it, because it goes on a bit long, it would have been better. But I enjoyed it. There's good performances and stuff. It's just stretched a bit thin. It was originally conceived as an Amazing Stories reboot before the director Brian Fuller left the project. Brian Fuller is somebody who has made a career in TV, making TV shows. He famously made Hannibal, which had an amazing visual style that is maintained here, actually. So I would consider him a visionary, because he does have his own unique visual style, even if it's clearly inspired by the comic Little Nemo in Slumberland, which was made into a Netflix movie, you know, Slumberland, which wasn't very good, apparently, but, yeah, that was the midnight movie I saw first, and then there's Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. This is an adaptation of the TV show Nirvana, the band, the show, which itself was sort of like a semi-sequel to Nirvana with One End, the band, the show, which was a web series started in 2007. It's about two guys, Matt Johnson and Jay McCarroll, who want to book a gig at the Rivoli, or Rivoli, which is just a local Toronto music spot and lounge bar restaurant. And instead of, you know, contacting the manager through the proper channels and stuff, they want to get famous first enough to play there, which is funny. And the movie plays out as kind of an extended version of the show. It has like outrageous humor, funny character beats, and thoughtful editing. The conceit of the movie is actually just a Back to the Future riff. They accidentally go back to 2008 in the summer and try and get back to the present. It's pretty funny and outrageous. And what they do is, because the show has been going on since 2007, they basically found the footage first, because they would just record themselves all the time and react to that as their old selves and place them in the scene. So it's very ingenious the way that it's made. It's from the makers, the director, and the guy who did the music for Blackberry, Matt Johnson. And I saw him there. I got a bunch of good photos that you can see on my social media page, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then the movie that I didn't enjoy, although it's not the worst showing, was called Fuck My Son. And it's basically about a woman who is a man in drag, played by a man in drag, kidnaps a woman and her daughter to have the woman fuck her son. And that's like the joke begins and ends with its title. It uses, you know, AI, it's fat-phobic, ableist, all of that. It's heavily inspired by Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Silence of the Lambs, and there's even a doorway shot in it that, like, calls back to The Searchers. I found it funny that a movie which, you know, has a grasp on filmmaking grammar and, you know, seemingly wants to be as offensive as Pink Flamingos, which was a movie by John Waters, who made So Bad It's Good movies, and it wants you to be repulsed and stuff. But its ideas aren't, like, super imaginative. It's just kind of like a gross out, I guess, and repetitive in that instance. Like, it'll repeat many jokes multiple times. You can recognize the structure of, like, oh, the character's gonna get away, but they don't shoot the bad guy. And then you think they're gonna get away, but you know they're not, because if you've seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's an extended sequence where the character goes out and like finds the sheriff, help, blah, 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 or the cops. You've seen it in a movie a million times, and they go out and they don't really like do anything, and you realize like, oh, this isn't going to help the main character. It's just going to put them back where they were, and that's side coming a mile away and stuff. So what I liked though was that I was able to, you can see I have a 1 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 3 out of 5, 2 out of 5. I don't have a 5 out of 5 yet, but you know, that's fine. But it's cool enough for me that I got published on Rotten Tomatoes, even though, you know, as time goes on, you know, you can see like Tomato Meter approved critics and stuff like that. They have an application and criteria a lot of times, and you can, if you bring this up, let me see if I can go here, the town, because this is almost like a Screenlight thing right here. And I wonder why okay, so where is it? Was recent Rotten Tomatoes Formula Fresh or Rotten? This video kind of explains the strengths and pullbacks of it, and the thing that Matt Bellany gives as an example is when you hire basically awards pundits to review movies, you're not going to get a fair, you know, estimation of movies that are good, because they're just here to promote their own brand or hired by the film studio. And he uses an example of the Deadline critic, who's not really a critic, he's just their ad sponsor, and Rotten Tomatoes needs a way around that. That is the truth. So I am getting into it late, however, I do think it's great for my career, especially as a film critic. It's a really big hurdle for me to get over. Now, speaking of other technical hurdles, another issue that I have with my podcast is just that, I'm going to go to the next website here. The issue that I have is that I don't think it is episode 56. It might be a different episode, so I got to change all of them. But we'll see. We'll get to that later. I want to go over the box office quickly. One battle after another opens to 22 million. Overall, 60 million worldwide so far. It opened to about 48. Now, people are asking, is this a good amount of money to make? And people are saying no, because it costs like 130 million, or it costs 140, or it costs whatever. I think the top half of that amount of money, like the 30 to 40 million or whatever, is just Leonardo DiCaprio's salary. Not just Leo by himself, but DiCaprio, Penn, who's a 2-time Oscar winner, Benicio del Toro, you know, and the director. It's just paying above the line quotes. So then you're dealing with 100 million. And just for reference, because everybody's like, oh, why aren't there original movies and stuff? Let's see here what, like, it would cost in, you know, 1996. I know it's always the top one, it's because I'm Canadian, so I'm just gonna do it. You know, we can assume that the dollars are at bar, which I always do, but like, let's say this movie cost $60 million in 1996. 111. Okay, so if we do work backwards and we say, okay, it's not gonna let me do that. That's very annoying. Okay, so let's try and get to, like, is this an $80 million movie? I'll say yes, because there's a bit, you know, so you're kind of dealing, like, if this were 80 million, people wouldn't blink an eye, but you kind of have to look at, like, it's a good movie. It doesn't look like there's a lot of waste on it. There's a lot of extras in it. It doesn't look like I can see it costing 100 million. But you look at it and you're like, okay, why did Oppenheimer cost 100 million and this cost more? And that's just like scheduling, I suppose. But anyways, my point is this. People are worried about the cost of this movie, and they shouldn't be. A, because they didn't pay for it. It's not their money. So anytime somebody complains, oh, the movie didn't, you know, the movie came out, it was good, it was well reviewed. I can go into my review later, which I will. In fact, I'll bring it up now. But the main thing is just that, like, the movie came out, got good reviews by Warner Brothers. They've had a string of hits, which I've gone on about. You know, Weapons, The Conjuring made a crap ton of money. Look at this. If I go down here, Conjuring Last Rites. This is the 4th movie in the series. The first one made 137 million. This one makes 162. No movie had even come close to the first one before, and it just explodes worldwide. And the interesting thing is, the 3rd movie in the Conjuring series came out like shortly after, during the 2nd wave of COVID. The Devil Made Me Do It. So people were like, oh, 65 million, 200 million worldwide. I guess that is enough for a sequel, but maybe just one more. Because it opened to 24 million. This was, if you look at the June 4th, 2021. So the first summer back from COVID. And this was coming out with Operation Popcorn. I forget exactly what it was called, but that was when they released every movie. Warner Brothers did day and date. And they did about 13 movies. They haven't gone up to 13 movies. Warner Brothers doesn't have another movie coming out till February, so a bit problems with schedule management there. But like, this movie came out in 2021, and people were like, you know, it did pretty well. I thought it did quite well for something that, like, you know, was during the COVID pandemic. I love how they stopped Box Office Mojo, like, after June 18th. They decided they didn't need to do COVID pandemic anymore, which is why? Because the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard came out. Like, what is this? You know, it's a bizarre distinction. The distinction I use for COVID and when it stopped was Top Gun Maverick, because that's when everybody completely, I wouldn't say completely forgot and moved on, but there was a bit of stuff, because if you look at the weekend box office here, and we go to 2021, and we go to, yeah, so this is right as Omicron is coming out, and look, so you have like, does this look good? Like, Encanto made it to 96, but didn't blow up until it came out. But look at your 3 million, 10 million. Then you have the gigantic, like, I'm going to see Spider-Man no matter what kind of thing. But look at Nightmare Alley. That was nominated for Best Picture, didn't do a whole lot. You have Sing 2 sort of doing well, but the last one was like double that. Matrix 4, now this is day and date, so I get that. Kingsman doing like nothing and stuff. So, like, this doesn't look like, and then you have Scream, and then you have nothing for like so many. So it's still barren up until 2022, and you get like one movie every 2 weeks that people see, like, and then you have the Batman, and then you have nothing really. Like, you have an anime film, and then you have The Lost City, but you're not getting the wealth of new releases. You know, that's why Morbius became a meme. Yeah, and then, you know, like, nothing. You have Doctor Strange, and then, like, it's slowly getting bigger and bigger. But like, after Top Gun Maverick, like, it's, then you get back into Jurassic World, and then you get a Pixar movie, and then you get Elvis. This was the year that pretty much every movie that came out, none of them flopped, because it was like the first time back. You even had sleeper hits of Where the Crawdads Sing, and then you had like Nope, and then your big movie was DC Super Pets and Bullet Train. And then you have, like, there was a special effects log jam of, like, after COVID, where you didn't have a whole lot going on, but even then you'd have a movie, like, or two. It's funny that The Invitation ended up making money, and it left room for a sequel, and it was a terrible movie, according to my brother who saw it. But like, there was so little going on, like, and then that led to Barbarian and some other stuff coming out. But like, yeah, it wasn't until Top Gun, in my mind, that things started coming around again. and yeah, and then we slowly got back into it. But even then, you had like nothing, and then you had Avatar. It was the year 2022 where things were getting back into theaters, and then Megan was a big hit. Shyamalan disrupted Avatar 2. Anyways, so one battle after another. Let me get into this. Okay. One battle after another. Very good movie, interesting characters, politically relevant film to come out of a major Hollywood studio in some time. DiCaprio, now comfortably in middle age, stars as Bob Ferguson, an ex-revolutionary from a group called the French 75. He's called back into action after years of dormancy when his daughter Willa is kidnapped by his nemesis, Colonel Stephen Lockjaw, Sean Penn. Along the way, Bob encounters other revolutionaries fighting their own battles, like Sensei Sergio St. Carlos, Benicio del Toro, great as always, who runs an underground railroad. What sets this film apart, beyond its hefty mid-$100 million budget, is a lot for a studio without superheroes, is how it boldly frames its white supremacist villains in the modern-day U.S. government. Most films depicting such figures retreat to a historical setting, which I've become very annoyed with myself, and the story is purportedly inspired by the Thomas Pynchon novel Vineland, which takes place during the Reagan administration. Another Reagan-era set novel, The Long Walk, which was adapted into a R-rated film released this month, and that one shows timelessness. This film chooses timeliness. The directness makes it brave. It makes me wish that The Long Walk, which I did see in theaters, was more brave. I'll get back to that. But one battle balances all the necessary elements of a good movie, yet despite that, it doesn't quite land with the punch that it could. It feels mostly intentional that it doesn't. The filmmakers don't want to alienate specific audiences, not that people necessarily identify with white supremacists, although there are those. It's just that they don't want to get too bogged down in the politics, and they want a bit more action in it. They also don't want to burn through the pilot money to make the film and set it on fire. Eddington sort of, I wouldn't say Eddington did that, but I would say that Ari Aster is a bit more of a fearless filmmaker, has less to lose, and Eddington is a much bolder movie than this one. The reason lies in the title and the poster. Bob is both an ex-revolutionary and a parent. For all the battles he wages to save his daughter, there are others he can't fight for her. She must stand on the front lines herself. The film's softness when it comes to his portrait of a parent ready to pass the struggle to the next generation, as in the telling moment, Bob asks his daughter which pronouns her friends use before hilariously scolding them over her safety. Not that they particularly care. Half the battles in this movie are really just the adults' fight to remain relevant. One battle after another is filled with deliberate artistic choices that make its feel-good nature all the more rewarding. You sense that you're in the hands of true artists, not some designed-by-committee blockbuster. Everything, the costuming, like Bob's robe, the lighting, even how characters walk, feels purposeful. The film, helping the film carry momentum across its 2-hour, 41-minute runtime. Johnny Greenwood's score pushes the action forward, and the film slows down only again deliberately when the villains are on screen by themselves, moments that make you despise them even more. It's hard to say how much this film will change the world or whether it will move anyone to act, but when it reaches its destination, it has done all it can in the best way possible. I give it a B+ and 7.9 out of 10. So I am just going to mostly skip to the good part of my film diary, since there isn't really a whole lot to glean from the box office. Movies are doing well. That's pretty much all you need to know. So this is my September breakdown. I saw The Ice Road Vengeance, another sequel Liam Neeson movie. Could have been worse. Bad effects, green screen, questionable motivations and moves made by many characters, but at least it doesn't break rule number one, which is don't be boring. If you're making a movie, it doesn't matter how amateurish or professional, do not bore the audience. If you bore the audience, they'll turn off. I don't think I was as immature at 22 as I was for the character in Cha-Cha Real Smooth by Cooper Raiff. I'm kind of amazed how this guy, who also wrote and directed it, doesn't seem to ponder the ethics of his characters too much. There's a lot of scenes of him being judgmental to the characters of Greg and Joseph, who both seem to carry an underlying sadness to them, as if they are weighed down by the burden of responsibility of being stepdads. I suppose if I had that worldview, I wouldn't want to grow up either. This was a movie that came out at Sundance and was done by a guy 22 years old, and he had done a movie before that he had turned from a short film into a real film called Shithouse, and he made this movie, got bought by Apple. It took me a while to watch it. I finally did, and when I saw the writer director's star age and saw that he was the first director that was younger than me at the time, having it got me really jealous. But having seen the film, I thought, good for him, living the dream. I wish him well. This movie doesn't have a lot going on in it, so considering that not many people have remarked on it as a film, it doesn't bother me. I guess call me less salty. The Thursday Murder Club was the last movie that I saw before I went off to TIFF, and it's kind of like I can't sleep. I have to watch a movie the night before. And this is an adaptation of a book series directed by Christopher Columbus about a retirement home group who meets every Thursday to solve murders. It stars Ben Kingsley, Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, and another actress who is a respected British actress that I do not know. But interesting thing is that there's sophisticated cinematography in this movie by Don Burgess, who's like an awards-worthy cinematographer. Great music by Thomas Newman, and good costuming again by a best-in-class person, Joanna Johnston. You got Jonathan Pryce, Dame Helen Mirren, Sir Ben Kingsley, incredible talent in front of and behind the screen, and good source material, and the movie kind of flounders. The pacing is too slack in the first half, and then it ramps up in the second half, but by then I'd lost interest. Maybe it's the millennial in me, but although I love Pierce Brosnan in anything, at 72, he's miscast here. He still seems too young for this. He's always been famously bad at accents, and here apparently he's supposed to be playing Cockney, but it's all over the place. He also seems way too well put together to be in a retirement home. Kingsley and Mirren fit because they have always looked old, as long as I've known them, but Brosnan still looks dashing like a man in his 60s. There are a lot of other actors here, but the movie is really heavy in the second half explaining information, but hasn't taken the time to establish the characters, so I was confused. When the trailer came out, I thought it was a TV series. It feels like a TV series and should have been a TV series. Chris Columbus, the director, nice guy. He's made some classics, but I feel like he's lost his fastball here. So I go to TIFF, and you can see my film diary there, where I go over the 10 days of me at Toronto International Film Festival, and I break it down. But basically, the first day, I go and I wait in a line, and I don't get into what I'm getting to in the line, and because I'm waiting in that line, I miss out on meeting a celebrity, and then I, on top of that, fail to get into the movie. But I get to meet my brother's girlfriend and stuff, so that's fun. And we hang out, and so it's not a total loss by any means. But the next day, the first movie I get into, in keeping with last year, is a foreign language movie that I'd never heard of. I just go into that's pretty well done. This one is called Unidentified, and it's one of those movies where the direction is stronger than the script, but still has a great premise about a true crime aficionado woman who works at a police station, wants to solve a murder in her local neighborhood of an unidentified woman. The thing is that it's Saudi Arabia. And so, interesting story and location. Full disclosure, I missed the first 15 minutes of this movie trying to get into the theater, which may have actually helped me avoid the misdirection. I assume partly that, I need to mark this as a spoiler. Dun, 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 dun. I'll spoil it anyway, because who's going to watch this movie? But I assumed partly that, spoilers for Unidentified, she did do the crime because of the photo of the woman in her car in her neighborhood looked like her, and the movie doesn't show you anyone else, so it has to be a woman. And her saying that she was in the area. So when the movie lifts exactly from the usual suspects at the ending, I didn't feel the same rug pull, but it was an interesting setting with likable and distinct characters. And I'm going to go ahead and mark that one as a spoiler review. Yeah, I did. Okay, you just can't tell based on when you're looking in your own diary on Letterboxd, which just got an update, by the way,
that, like, whether it's a spoiler or review, seems odd. Anyways, Rental Family, I've been over this. Great film that manages to use the lack of depth behind the acting for it. Blah 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 blah. You get it. It's a good movie. I don't need to go through it again. And then I'll bring this up just because there was a movie called Dinner with Friends that intrigued me. It was a Canadian movie, and it was the kind of movie I'm like, oh, I'd like to make that movie, but I didn't hear much about it. And the thing that convinced me not to see the movie was this review. This is a film for millennials who use the word adulting unironically. Stiff writing has the characters at their most likable when they're happy, something that happens rarely, and good use of single takes only serves to reinforce what becomes more clear as the film progresses. This should be a play. And I've seen plays exactly like this of people just meeting up again and again and again. So, it's like Dinner with Andre times 4 or whatever. Yeah, a bit of a gimmick, but whatever. And then, 13 Lives, subterranean companion piece to Apollo 13. It's a movie about the Thai cave rescue that Ron Howard helms as in the same way they did Apollo 13. It came out on streaming, so not a lot of people saw it, but it's one of Colin Farrell's best performances. He's weirdly, I wouldn't say unrecognizable, but he's just like a common guy here with a British accent. He's not like cool. He's not American. He's not Irish. So yeah, and Viggo Mortensen gives a classic actor performance and is like radically real. He's not a showy actor in his brilliant work. And then Sayumbu Mukhtar Prom's cinematography is incredible here, as is the sound mixing and sets by Molly Hughes. And I think people take for granted, because it's a true story, how good it looks. This sits alongside Blade Runner 2049. It's one of Benjamin Wallfish's best scores, and it's a shame this didn't arrive on the big screen. It needs a re-release physical 4K because everything comes together on this film. Then, as we go along, I mentioned my reviews, so I'm not going to go deep into, them. I've covered them, but I will cover The Long Walk because I saw this on my birthday. And every element of this production, particularly the score by Jeremiah Freites, is the most effective part. The dialogue is functional. I thought this concept had a lot of missed opportunities in terms of rule violations and relationship dynamics, which do not escalate or change, although they serve the morality of the film regarding non-toxic male bonding, which I appreciated. It's a movie about one man from every state who signs up to do the long walk, a movie where competition where you can't go under 3 miles an hour. If you do, you die. Last man standing wins. And so I say this, I could watch Cooper Hoffman, son of Philip, act in everything, mostly because I have such respect for his father, but also because, like his father, can very easily blend into the scenery. I bought him as his character completely, in which both he and Johnson were given more to do because they and the rest of the cast are quite good. The best performance of their early careers. The director, Francis Lawrence, has a sick opening title card and leans effectively on the music, but he refuses to be a definitive ending because it's like they might need a sequel. And this is the second movie Lawrence has done that in a row, and very much annoys me because you get that far, you get all the way, and you don't give solid punctuation on the end of the movie. It's frustrating. It makes your movie weaker, for sure. I already mentioned Poetic License and Nirvana. I created a list. If I were to rank the movies I saw at TIFF, I'd go 1, Rental Family, 2, It Was Just an Accident, 3, Nirvana, the band that showed the movie, 4, Unidentified, 5, Dust Bunny, 6, Hamnet, 7, Poetic License, which seems odd to me, and 8, Fuck My Son. It's not as good as the year that I saw The Holdovers, where I had a mix of movies that I had bought tickets for and movies that I'd waited in line for, but it's a solid showing. Wonder how I can up the game for next year, because this one I was a bit behind trying to put together my reviews, and on the other end, I want to see some famous people. I missed out on a few of those, but I was too tired, and I'm just not sure how I could not be tired the first day with my traveling woes. So it's something to work on, I guess. Um, I can't say I have any regrets, really. Like, there are people I didn't get to see. I could have gone to see movies earlier, but for example, I saw 13 Lives and enjoyed that. Because of that, I missed out on seeing Normal, which doesn't come out for a while, like maybe even another year, or maybe not until next spring. Um, but I heard mixed things about it anyway. So, yeah. Um, Moving on. Um, I saw Fight or Flight a week ago. Again, it's weird because I guess I've seen a lot of TV. Like, I finished Dexter. I finished Terminal List, Dark Wolf. Um, both solid, if unspectacular shows. So I haven't watched a lot of movies. Fight or Flight is one I saw a week ago, and it's so close to being very good until it dangles a sequel in front of you, and until then it flirts with being bullet plane, basically, but better. A lot of fun in a small package with a completely unsatisfying ending, um, for truth. And then I saw Red Sonja. The bad guy in this movie looks so much like Justin Trudeau. Boring, derivative, devoid of any personality. Sometimes it's better to be bad. At least you're more memorable that way. This is a competently made film on a very small budget. Um, and it's competent, but it's boring. So it's kind of like I'd rather something be entertainingly bad or swing than just be an average movie, because I've seen enough average movies. I'm getting bored now, restless even. Um, then I get into one battle of after another. I've covered everything, reiterating my review, so I don't really have anything more to say. I'll touch on the social response to it, and that's just that the people, on Twitter are just basically like, I'm shocked by how people are misreading the film. And the answer to that is just that it's a piece of art. Um, People are allowed to misinterpret a piece of art. Not everybody can have it the same way. The thing that annoys me is people saying like, "Oh, I'm annoyed that people laughed at the white supremacists in the movie." And it's like, you're allowed to make fun of that, but these people are troubled by the fact that the movie isn't saying outright that these people are bad. It's the same issue they had with Eddington. And it's like, do you really need to have explained why a bad thing is bad? I don't think so. It's a very elementary readership by those of Gen Z with popular TikToks. Um, this one guy has an excellent review. His name's Pink_Puma on Letterboxd, and I just had to comment because I saw it on Twitter, and I just said to him, sometimes a review is so good that you seek it out on Twitter after it goes viral and have to follow the person who wrote it. Great analysis of Paul Thomas Anderson's whole career and evolving style. Everything you say seems correct to me. And he goes into his review. It has 181 likes, 3.5 stars and a heart, but you know, um, it's not perfect, because my review was 4 stars. It was just like a solid 4 stars. The 3 stars I followed up with was highest to lowest. This was a movie that I was gonna watch first night back at TIFF. It stars Denzel Washington and is about his son gets kidnapped by ASAP Rocky, who holds him hostage and wants a bunch of money. And it's just basically Denzel, who is like a top record producer, deciding whether or not he wants to pay the money because a mix-up happens and it's his driver's son, not his. And he's like $1 million record producer. So there's a little stuff about social media in there, a little stuff about like going from the highest to the lowest, like the people on the low end dealing with, millionaires, and that's timely, and people waiting for their shot and taking it. So it's interesting. um, but yeah, I say, I didn't see the first movie, ha ha ha, because it's highest to lowest, and it's a remake of Akira Kurosawa's High and Low. um, But I say, if all money ain't good money, why take a bite of the apple? I say this because a lot of Apple movies, there just tends to be a distaste because it seems all like elitist crap to a small extent. But this is a well done movie because even though Spike Lee, and I won't get into, like you can see here, it's a long review that I wrote on this movie. Spike Lee has a lot of stuff to say that is always entertaining. It's just hard to get around sometimes his amateurish or insensitive way of saying it. I started to watch this movie on release day and then had to cut out because it is cut so weirdly. And I didn't like that. And so I'm like, okay, I'll finish this on my own later. But I'm glad I did because it had a recovery. Not many movies recover from that. This one did. So I'd consider Highest to Lowest worth watching. You just really got to get over the hump of the first 20 minutes because the opening credits are good and then the cutting in the opening scene and dialogue is just plain annoying. Um, yeah. And then I didn't watch a movie until I saw two last night. Play Dirty. This is Mark Wahlberg's latest movie. In this one, he plays Parker, who Jason Statham previously played, and Mel Gibson played in the movie Payback. And this is like uses that character to tell an original story, but it feels very recycled. You know, there's parts of the Italian Job, there's parts of Payback. Um, it's done by Shane Black. Is so there are some moments of inspired dialogue that's funny, um, but this movie feels lazy. There's some really bad CGI that I think might be AI, and I thought that with the last Mark Wahlberg movie, Flight Risk, which I liked more because it just seemed to have a bit of, I guess because Mel Gibson being behind it had a kind of classic moviedom to it. It wasn't like, oh, we're doing a commercial. There's a scene in this, a chase scene, where, they're being chased by those annoying electric Range Rovers or they're driving in them. And I'm just kind of like, this just feels like a commercial that I'm watching. Like it doesn't feel like a movie. And Wahlberg has done these paycheck gigs again and again and again. And I'm starting to get a little sick of it. So please do better next time, Mark. The one star is for Rosa Salazar, who's a great femme fatale in this movie, but Wahlberg phones it in, and nobody feels like they're playing a real character. Um, it's just a movie that feels like put in place so people don't cancel Amazon Prime, like just kick the ball down the road. But Wahlberg is now done. He did The Family Plan with Apple, which is filming a sequel. He um, did Spencer Confidential with Netflix, and he's done this with Amazon Prime. Um, so short of like a Disney Plus movie or Paramount Plus movie. Oh no, Infinite ended up going to Paramount Plus, so that's a Paramount Plus movie. That was one of the first ones. Horrid movie, um, and it's been that way since the pandemic. So he's done a Paramount Plus movie, so he just has to do a Disney Plus movie and a Peacock movie, I guess, and he'll have done one for all of the streamers. Um, all the major ones at least. Um, so yeah. um, Lastly, I watched The Naked Gun. Pretty funny movie, top heavy in terms of jokes. The plot was too nonsensical to engage in the story, so it relied entirely on jokes, which are kind of all misses in the last 5 minutes. It's worthy of a few laughs, definitely a funny film, but felt too much like an extended skit more than anything. I put on the first half of Rush Hour 3 after this, and I was just like, I hadn't seen Rush Hour 3 since seeing it in theaters, and just visually, as a movie from 2007, it looks amazing. And granted, that movie cost $140 million because, you got Tucker getting 20 million flat, and then Chan getting 15 million plus, I think, a percentage of the movie. Um, but it was still fine. Had some funny jokes to it. But I was just amazed of like, this movie looks amazing, and movies now look like crap. So we gotta do something to fix it. Speaking of stuff that looks like crap, I played the Fortnite one battle after another map, and that was, you know, not great. Um, and it wasn't great because it was haphazardly put together. The server shut off before I was able to finish it because it was broken. You go into Bob Ferguson's house, Leonardo DiCaprio character's house, and there's a light shining through because they try and emulate, mistakenly changing like the the lighting stuff, and they used baked in lighting or whatever. Anyway, there's a big light shining through that brightens up the whole image, and you can't see anything as you're playing through. So that sucks. I did clipping through the bottom of the map, trying to do the ski-doo part, which was just a fun little deviation. Yeah, good C tie-ins are back, but yeah, I didn't finish it because it was like broken. I had to defeat a boss that didn't work. So you complete a puzzle, you're given no cues. You just have to move switches up and down. So that wasn't fun. And that came right after the Daft Punk experience, which was cool. All great lighting, all cool mini maps and stuff like that. So Sawhorse or Sawtooth is the developer or creator behind that map. They need to do a bit better. But I liked how somebody's like, hey, let's try Fortnite map for this, because it was fun nonetheless. It's just I was shocked at how like it's like they asked me to do it, and then I'm like, oh, I guess. Yeah. In terms of playing games, Xbox had a massive price hike again. They did the same thing at the beginning of the pandemic. Are the same people going to care and turn on them to make them turn around because a lot of people hated it? I'm not sure. But I'm still playing on Xbox. I got 2 controllers from Walmart, and what happened was I ordered them. They didn't come in. I got notification that they did come in. I think that they might have been sold or whatever, and I got a 10-year veteran come to me and say, I want to make sure you got something equivalent to what you paid for. So come in, had me choose controllers off the shelf, did some fancy technological changes, and I was able to come home with some cool controllers. So shout out to Megan at Walmart. So wrapping things up, I'm going to try and get back on schedule of content creation. I am, which is why I'm doing this, and I am going to try and maybe I'll do a review of Unidentified, like formalize my notes a bit better, and you'll see that on Rotten Tomatoes. That's one thing. I'm kind of looking for a big project to hook myself onto. I did rent Cyberpunk again from the library in an attempt to beat it, so if I do, that'll get me out of my gaming rut, because just playing multiplayer games to me doesn't count. I like having the purpose of a single player driven story. So yeah, this has been a bit haphazard, but I'm back on video, so the point is getting it out. Yeah, this was shorter than usual. I'm slimming down to about an hour done, but we'll see how it goes, because on the horizon for content we have The Lost Bus, which I'll review probably next time. And I don't know. I just feel I'll have like major updates. Maybe I'll review a few more movies that you'll see. Maybe I'll find something worthy to play. I've rented Sonic Racing Crossworlds to play with the nephews and family friends and stuff like that. So that's a new game to play that I'll be playing next time. So stay tuned, and hopefully maybe next time I'll have the episode numbers and everything sorted out better. But until then, this was episode 56, season 5, episode 6 of the FilmGamer podcast. And every day we figure out what works and doesn't, and hopefully get a bit better. So in the meantime, thanks for listening, and I appreciate your support.